All right, welcome back, guys. This is going to be the video covering section 3 of Call of the Wild. Our first video ended on this slide here showing Daya Beach and the trails Buck and his dog team and Francois and Perot would take up to the fields and back, taking supplies or mail up to 600 miles. And a little illustration, or actually a real picture, of what a camp might have looked like at that time. I actually don't have a lot of slides for you on this one because most of this section, section 3, is about the relationships between the dogs and the way the dogs interact, and when they're pulling the sled, when they're working together, or when they are under attack or fighting amongst themselves. So I don't have a lot of illustrations to share, but I did want to share these. As a historian, I think these are so cool. These are all primary sources, meaning they come from the time. And we've got to the top left the advertisement for a sled at that time, because of course you could make your own sled around the early 1900s, or you could buy one. And there were companies making those sleds just like companies now would make a bicycle or a car. This one, you can see there really isn't a place to ride or stand. This is for carrying supplies, and that's what they would have used. And I just thought that was so cool, this Pacific Wagon Company and how they're talking up their sled. And it's up in Seattle, Washington, which, if you know geography well, is in the northwest of our country. And to get to Alaska, you have to go through Canada. We're not connected to Alaska. So Seattle is a really good jumping off place. That's sort of the edge of the country, and then you have to go into Canada. So you'd want to buy your supplies in America and take with you. And so Seattle's a big hub for that. And to this day, Seattle's got a lot of a really important connection to Alaska because it's the closest of the main part of the United States, what we call the continental United States. The 48 lower states. And then you've got Alaska and Hawaii spread out above and to the west of us. Then you've got a couple pictures of our miners during the Yukon Gold Rush. In the center is spring or summer, where it's nicer, and they're taking a rest. You can see there's still a little bit of snow up in the mountains, but for the most part it's nice. And to the bottom left, you see these guys struggling to get up this snowy mountain in terrible weather. And you probably wonder, why are their packs so huge? And that's because they have to go up there for a season or a year, however long they plan on going to look for gold. And they need to carry everything they're going to need. There's no hotels up there. They can't find what they need as they're going, or shelter, so they have to carry it all with them. And that's what this really cool handout on the right is, called a Yukon outfit. They're not meaning outfit like what you're going to wear. They're meaning what you need to outfit your camp, what you need for yourself. So yes, clothes, but also you can see all the food. How much? 150 pounds of bacon. Woo! Peas, beans, dried fruit, butter, coffee, milk, canned milk, because you wouldn't want to carry all that weight. Oats, oatmeal. This whole left side is mostly food and cooking materials. And then what you need over here, knife and fork, cup, nails. What else do they have? Your candles, axes, a stone for sharpening axes and knives. So all these things are things you would need to take you up there and help you survive through nice weather like this and terrible weather like that, because it can change quickly there. So this is the kind of things that you would need to survive up there, what it would look like, and why people like Francois and Perot were so important. Yes, mail is important to keep you in touch with your family and friends and know what's going on, but they also would carry supplies and things that miners might need or run out of. Like I said, this section is really about the relationships between the dogs. And we find that our protagonist, Buck, protagonist, if you remember, is a synonym for hero or narrator. Buck is our narrator. He's telling us our story through his eyes. But he's also our protagonist. He's also the one we're rooting for. So to have a hero, you have to have a villain or an antagonist. And the antagonist is Spitz. Now, Spitz is the original lead dog, and he has a claim to that. He's a North dog. He's from there. He's been pulling the sled longer. He was the leader. He's been good at it. So it's a really interesting clash between Buck and Spitz. We want to pull for Buck because we've gotten to know him and we're rooting for him, but that doesn't make Spitz bad necessarily. It just means that those two are at odds. And yes, Spitz is kind of mean, and we learn to root against him, but a lot of that is because of who we're hearing the story from, too. These two are just going to clash. They're both alpha dogs. They both want to be in charge, want to be in control. They're both the biggest and the strongest. And if they can't get along, then one of them's going to have to give up. One of them's going to have to lead, and one of them's going to have to follow. So that's what Section 3 really focuses on. And a big part of that, an important occurrence, is when the wild huskies or the wolves attack the camp and steal food and attack the dogs and attack the men and tear up the sleds and the harnesses. Because Spitz takes that opportunity to attack Buck, even though he's under attack. Spitz and all of his teammates and the men, he still sees an opening to go after Buck. And I think for me, that's when Buck realizes that this relationship can't continue the way it is. Someone's got to win and someone's got to lose. They're not going to be able to coexist. They can't work together or live together. And so when the dogs run off to the woods, Buck's been attacked by the wild dogs and Spitz. They're all sort of licking their wounds, and they come back to camp later to find it torn up, and the men working on fixing it up in sleds and so that they can get going again. For me, that's sort of where Buck decides, all right, it's going to be him or me. Then, near the end of the section, you've got a rabbit, a jackrabbit, come out of nowhere, and the dogs go chasing it, and the wolves go chasing it. And now you've got this little rabbit running away from a huge pack of dogs, I think up to 60 dogs and wolves. And that is really fascinating to me because you can see by this picture I put up, a jackrabbit, even a big one, isn't going to feed more than a dog or two. They're not big. So why are all these dogs chasing when they know that maybe the first dog to get there might get any food or anything out of it? And I think that's another illustration of how these dogs, and Buck especially, have gone from domesticated and kind of dog that wants to be around humans and lay by the fire and is used to being comfortable, to more wild and instinctive. And if you see prey, you're going to chase it. And that's what that jackrabbit is. And this is where Spitz takes the opportunity to cut Buck off and attack him, or to beat him to the rabbit, illustrating his dominance, but also bringing on the ultimate fight between the two. We sort of had the idea that this was coming. They had to butt heads at some point and finally settle their score. They couldn't just keep going on little battles here and there and little opportunities to take advantage of the other or attack the other. And so now you've got the final showdown. And I think this is where you see what a wonderful writer Jack London is, because I can really visualize these two big, strong dogs going at each other and attacking each other. And he talks about the fight in terms you can really see in your mind. And the whole time it's going on, with Spitz having the early advantage and really getting after Buck, and then Buck coming back, you can just picture all the other dogs and wild dogs in a circle around them watching. And it's snowy and it's cold, and you can see the breath coming out of their muzzles, and they're silent. The only noise is from the fight. The other dogs are all watching. They want to know who's going to win, who's the alpha, who's the lead dog. And so the two dogs in the fight are not only fighting for themselves, their lives, their right to lead, but also they have all the pressure of the other animals watching them, knowing that these dogs are going to pounce on the loser. They're waiting to see who the strongest dog is, who the best fighter is. So it's really an interesting portion of the book. I think we get to see how Buck is evolving or devolving, and how this nice farm dog who's used to the easy life has turned into this more primitive wolf-like dog who is willing to fight for what he wants and what he thinks is right, and even if that means fighting to the death or attacking someone else. So our hero, Buck, who we're pulling for, we know that he's not perfect, and we're going to see what else changes in him as we go forward. And do we still pull for him? That's important. Our heroes don't always have to be perfect. No one's perfect. But do we pull for them, and if so, why? And that helps us learn about the characters, but also about ourselves. This is a really good story for character development. Buck has changed so much already, and we're going to keep seeing that, and how it affects him, and it affects the other dogs around him, and how it affects the humans, and what these relationships are like. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed section 3. We're going to be reading section 4 together tomorrow for everyone who wants to join. I hope my sound was better. I got a new setup, and I think it should sound better to you. I really enjoy doing these with you and then doing the videos for you later. I hope you enjoy them as well. We're getting near the end. Can you believe it? I will talk to you tomorrow. I miss you all. Thank you.